Welcome. My name is Ryan Bailey. I am an executive coach for physicians and healthcare leaders, and this webinar is on physician coaching. Today, we will discuss what physician coaching is, how it's being used, and how to find and vet great coaches. So when I'm in front of a group of physicians and I introduce myself as a physician coach, I know that about half of them imagine something like this. They think that I'm talking about sports medicine, that I'm somehow involved in coaching or being a physician for a team. And this lack of awareness around professional coaching is not at all surprising. Medicine is the only professional field that does not make extensive use of coaching for professional development. In law, for example, 95% of the 500 largest law firms in the United States use coaching to develop their people. In business, it's absolutely expected by upper-level managers that coaching will be a part of their compensation package. In fact, virtually all MBA students have worked with coaches before they even graduate business school, and they continue to use coaching intermittently throughout their professional careers. And yet in medicine, coaching is just beginning to be used. So with that in mind, I think it's reasonable to start at the most basic level and ask, what is a coach, so that we're all on the same page? At the most basic level, coaches are professionals trained to help people change their own lives. They are trained in a variety of research-proven tools to help clients experience greater vitality. And these tools and paradigms are drawn from a wide array of areas, including cognitive neuroscience, positive and motivational psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, evolutionary science, organizational theory, career design theory, and even Eastern and Western spiritual practices, particularly as they relate to mindfulness and self-compassion for professional development. And although all coaches are trained in these tools, they will use them in different ways as it relates to different life areas. For example, I am an executive coach, which means that I focus primarily on the professional domain. I help people change how they work, how they experience their work. I use these tools to help people create a compelling vision for where they want to go professionally, what their best self looks like, and develop tangible action plans for how to get there. I work with people on the inevitable challenges that come up, as well as the natural career transitions that we all have to navigate. In comparison, a health coach uses many of the same tools that I use, but focuses on a person's health and well-being. They will help them create a vision around things such as fitness, health, weight, nutrition, mental well-being. They may help people navigate chronic illnesses and identify the changes needed to experience more vitality in that area of their life. So what you are likely starting to see is that coaching is very action-oriented, with an emphasis on improving present life experience and reaching meaningful future goals. As a coach, I spend little time focusing on the past. I do not help people process prior trauma or find resolution to long-standing emotional issues. In fact, in coaching, we have a saying that what got you here is unlikely to get you where you need to go. Analyzing the past can be very therapeutic, and for certain people, it is absolutely the right strategy versus coaching. But even doing so does not always result in progress moving forward. And so you can see how coaching differs considerably from many types of therapy, for example. And you will sometimes hear people say things such as, well, if you want to focus on the past and go deep, see a therapist. If you want to work on the future and focus on goals, process, execution, get a coach. But I think that's a bit simplified because as coaches, we do go deep, just in a very different way. A large part of coaching is helping people develop a very deep sense of themselves, self-awareness around who and what's important to them, their values, their sense of purpose and calling. And we use these to build a compelling vision for their future. Then, from this aspirational goal, we identify the actions and behavioral goals needed to get there, as well as use techniques for anything that might come up and get in the way. And this is why coaching is considered a strengths-based process. And you can see how this is a bit different from consulting or mentoring, where an external person identifies what they think you should value or pursue or how you should develop. These processes tend to be about identifying and mitigating deficits as externally identified, whereas coaching focuses on inner strengths and values and developing that inner compass for change. So now that we've got a better sense of what coaching is and what coaches do, let's talk about how it's specifically being used in medicine. So there are three major areas within medicine in which coaching is being used currently, and those are professional development, performance improvement, and leadership. So by professional development, we mean helping physicians, clinicians, develop a vision for their career and their life. It's very much focused on intentional career design, identifying who and what's important to them, what gives them vitality in their work. In many ways, it's about avoiding burnout and boredom, and some people who seek this coaching feel those things starting to settle in. People may also be very interested in how to make changes to improve work-life integration, especially for busy physicians. And a lot of this development work will often involve transitions, job crafting, making changes to your current job, or figuring out if you maybe need to leave your current employer. Also, the development of portfolio careers, where clinical medicine is only one part of what you do, and developing other interests, which may be educational, research, administrative, or outside of medicine altogether. And for some people, this involves the decision to leave medicine and how to navigate that transition into another career field that will be meaningful for them. The second area that we talked about is using coaching for performance improvement. Here, as a coach, we're often working with people around issues pertaining to emotional intelligence, self-awareness. There may be issues around these things that are manifesting as disruptive behavior or poor interpersonal communication. Many people in this category will have already developed a significant level of burnout or boredom in their work. And so, just as with the previous category, we do work with people around these things to identify the meaningful changes that would help mitigate that. We also can spend a lot of time working on stress management, work efficiency to improve the overall experience of one's day. And the third category we mentioned is leadership performance. This is much more in line with traditional executive coaching, where we help physicians who have transitioned into leadership positions become more effective and efficient in what they do, to be productive but with less stress, helping them really create a vision for their role and who they want to be, and helping them develop those practical skills to work with and through others, inspire change in their organizations, create the types of environments where other people thrive rather than burn out. So that begs the question, who is using this coaching? When it comes to professional development, most people are self-referring. These are individuals who want to make meaningful changes to their career. They're excited about opportunities for change and growth. Because one-on-one coaching is cost prohibitive for many organizations, what you're starting to see is professional development interventions being used, but mostly in the form of workshops or professional development days, hiring coaches to create internal peer-to-peer programs or develop other content that can be given in a group format that's simply more efficient and more cost-effective for these organizations. When it comes to performance improvement coaching, the opposite is true. Very few people self-refer. And that's not surprising given that a lot of this has to do with people's blind spots and difficulties in the workplace. So what we see is a lot of these referrals come through state medical societies, medical boards, state physician health programs. We're also starting to see a lot of organizations directly refer their people when they notice that there are what they perceive to be problems, either with burnout, performance issues, interpersonal issues. And when it comes to leadership coaching, we see about half and half self-referral versus organizational referral. Organizations will often use this type of coaching to either retroactively develop people who have been put in leadership positions but may not be thriving as the organization would wish, or, and what we see a lot more of recently, is proactive coaching engagements where high potentials or people about to be promoted from clinical roles to leadership roles are being assigned coaches before they even enter those roles to guide that initial transition and to allow them to hit the ground running. So, how do you find and vet coaches, regardless of what specifically you might use them for? In medicine, it's difficult. If you look up executive coaching on Google, you'll get millions and millions of hits. If you look up physician coaching, you actually get far fewer hits, and most of those are off topic. Complicating this is that most physician coaches are individual practitioners, and because of the way Google search algorithms work, it is often harder to find their websites. Perhaps a better way of going about finding coaches is to contact state medical societies, as they're starting to be used extensively, state medical boards, state physician health programs. Here in North Carolina, for example, we make extensive use of coaches for physicians in the physician health program. Also, local coaching chapters, such as chapters of the International Coach Federation, could be helpful, although these groups tend to have low membership. Another way you might go about finding coaches is to read about physician wellness. Coaches often write and produce materials, and so you will see reference to coaches in physician-specific writings, often on websites such as KevinMD, Medscape, StudentDoctor.net. There's also so much focus in the general public now on physician well-being and coaching that you'll see articles in the New York Times, Huffington Post. Also, another great way to find people doing this type of work is at conferences, whether they be state medical society meetings, national specialty conferences, healthcare leadership or wellness conferences, conferences such as SEEK, which is the largest national conference for physicians looking to develop non-clinical trajectories. And so once you've found a few coaches that you may be interested in vetting, how do you go about that? Well, I think there's about 5 or 6 things that you can look at. First and foremost, where did they train? Remember, we said that coaches are trained professionals. What you will find is that many people call themselves a coach and have no formal training or credentialing. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that there are no legal requirements to be a coach. Anyone can print up business cards, put up a website, and start coaching. But if you want to actually find people with a trained, credentialed skill set, a great place to start is with the International Coach Federation. They accredit coach training programs, also known as ACTPs, and this ensures that these programs have a minimum number of didactic as well as supervised coaching hours. And right now there's about 130 programs in the US that are credentialed by the ICF to professionally trained coaches. Some of the most well-known you'll see at the bottom of the slide. These include the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, Coach Training Institute, and those 2 programs actually make up the majority of professional coaches working today. Coach University is another large program, and the Hudson Institute, although a smaller program, is one of the founders in the field and also very well reputed. What you'll also start seeing is that universities are starting to offer coach training programs, either as standalone programs or as tracks, such as a track within an MBA program. The issue is that universities are just starting to get into the game. These universities, even though they may have great name reputation, have very little track record in producing coaches, as these programs tend to be very new. So it's hard to evaluate the track record. And this does not necessarily mean that these programs are not good, but you should not assume that based on brand name that the training is necessarily superior to some of the programs mentioned on the previous page. And in fact, many universities do not pursue any type of credentialing for their programs, such as no oversight by the ICF. So making sure that your coach is professionally trained and credentialed is an absolute must. And then from that, there are a few different ways I think you can vet coaches for physicians. Obviously, number one is referrals. The point of coaching is to help people improve their experience of their lives and their work. And nothing beats a great referral. If a coach has helped one person, they're likely to be able to help others. Experience can also be vetted. You can ask coaches how long they've coached, years coaching, total number of clients, total number of hours, which I think is probably the best indicator because just like in medicine, the more you do, the better you get. The International Coach Federation also has some credentials that recognize longevity, although many coaches do not pursue these, but you may find these, and they include things like ACC, Associate Certified Coach, PCC, Professional Certified Coach, MCC, Master Certified Coach. Again, many coaches who easily meet the criteria for these credentials often don't seek them. Also, I think a great proxy for experience is, does your coach coach full or part-time? If coaching is their primary profession, and they're making a living, chances are they're probably pretty good at what they do. A lot of coaches dabble in coaching. They are full-time physicians and coach on the side. And that's not to say that they're not good. In fact, most physicians, myself included, had to start this way before transitioning into full-time coaching. But again, it's just different ways that you can try to vet coaches and get a sense of their experience and skill set. A fourth way is to see what else is that coach producing. Are they speaking at annual conferences, giving keynotes, workshops? Do they write? Do they develop courses for universities or private organizations? Do they create and manage online groups? All of these are indicators of level of skill and just overall level of activeness as a coach. And then last, are they a physician? And I think this is critical. The culture of medicine, the hidden curriculum of medical training, the verbiage, the situations that coaches experience, these are very hard to understand by people who have not themselves been trained as a physician. I also think it's an issue of credibility. Physicians want to know that the coach that they're speaking to really gets it and knows what they've been through. I once heard it best said that, does your coach know what betadine smells like? And for any physician, they'll know exactly what I mean by what I just said. And your coach should too. Does your coach know your world and have the same background as you? And I think that is an absolute critical part of being able to facilitate change in physicians. And last, you can do an intro session. Most coaches offer reduced fee or even free introductory coaching sessions. Coaching is really about fit. In fact, willingness to change and rapport between a client and a coach are probably the two greatest drivers of a successful coaching engagement. And there are many different types of coaches, many different types of personalities, and not everyone is going to work well with every client. And so I think, it's a very personal service, and it's really behooves you, if you're looking at coaches, to speak to more than one. So that is how I go about vetting coaches. That is what I recommend when I have these types of discussions with state medical boards, state physician health programs. Having professional training and credentialing is an absolute minimum. Referrals or testimonials, probably your second best indicator of skill. Experience level, are they a full-time coach? Do they do other types of professional development? Are they themselves a physician? And of course, at the end, how'd the intro session feel with them? I think if you focus on these 6 or 7 things, you're likely to find a coach who is both skilled in what they do, but also a good fit for you. So I hope that was all helpful. Please feel free to reach out to me either by phone or by email if you have any questions about what coaching is, how it might benefit you, how to find coaches for your organization. And with that, I'll say thank you for your time and open it up to questions.